Every system begins in silence. Before the physics are calculated, before the boundaries are set, there is only a blank void, waiting for parameters. Then, the map loads. A physical world is rendered out of the darkness, building topographies, drawing coastlines, and setting the physical rules of the environment. At this moment, before the first move is made, the simulation is a total blank slate. Every strategic pathway is available. If you play grand strategy games, you know that your starting position dictates your entire run. Your spawn point decides how much space you have to expand and what raw materials you can extract. Some players get dropped into massive, resource-rich continents. They start with an immense systemic advantage built directly into the terrain. But let's look at the parameters for Singapore. The system drops you onto a highly restricted, isolated drop of land, stripped of natural resources. No oil, no minerals, not even enough fresh water to sustain the population. Now take that severely limited geography and force millions of active units into it. The population density spikes immediately, pushing relentlessly against borders that cannot be expanded. In a standard simulation, this is a resource trap. Without the ability to produce food or water internally, the system's vital stats would hit zero before you even reached the second era. By every standard metric, this is a guaranteed system failure, an immediate game over. Faced with those overwhelming constraints, the expected response is to hit restart. Instead, the simulation continued. To survive, the builders had to discard the typical model of urban development. A traditional city, built with sprawling, low-density residential zones and resource-heavy industry, would have exhausted the entire map's footprint in a few years. Instead, the physical infrastructure was treated as an interconnected network. The geography became a motherboard of active transit pathways and central nodes, and the people became active data variables, flowing constantly through these pathways, processed to eliminate friction and maximize space. Survival meant treating an entire sovereign nation as a constantly running computational algorithm. Most simulations ask you to focus on one problem at a time. City builders force you to master spatial geometry, while civilizational games require you to plan across long spans of time. Running both of those logical frameworks simultaneously demands massive processing power. You have to balance immediate physical space with decades-long strategic foresight, and this engine operates continuously. It runs in an endless real-time loop, without a single pause, turn, or reset to catch your breath. Every passing second demands a new calculation, adjusting traffic flows, reallocating the water, importing food supplies in real time. These microscopic, split-second adjustments compound instantly, generating the structural outcomes that keep the entire system afloat. In a high-pressure environment with zero margin for error, static planning fails. The system survives by adjusting its inputs and outputs the very moment they shift. Today, you can look at the output of that equation. The system is operating at maximum scale, glowing against the evening sky without a single sign of degradation. The stability is almost eerie. There is no systemic friction, no lag in the processing, and no crashes under the weight of its own density. When an algorithm reaches this level of efficiency, is it still functioning as a normal city, or has it evolved beyond its physical parameters into an entirely different kind of advanced computational entity? In a complex system, flow dictates efficiency. It is the speed of movement, the complete mathematical absence of delay. Physical systems naturally resist this ideal. They generate friction. You see it in almost any major city, vehicles stacking up and buses trapped in a rigid grid, waiting for a localized bottleneck to clear. In factory simulation games like Factorio, the highest priority is throughput. Belts must move constantly. The objective is continuous forward momentum. A single bottleneck, one belt unable to handle the load, freezes the entire network. The failure cascades. To master a physical environment, urban planners must adopt this same mindset. They treat human geography as a structural puzzle, where standing still is a failure, and bottlenecks are the enemy. Singapore extended this logic to people. Airports became routers, passengers became packets. This treats major transport hubs like high-speed routers. Architecture like Chinese actively sorts and dispatches arrivals with the efficiency of a data packet, pulling them from the entrance toward the gate. The physical environment strips away the friction points that cause people to bunch up. Pedestrian avenues are wide and obstacle-free, allowing constant motion through retail zones. You see this mirrored in the transit hubs below. The stations are severely symmetrical, built with slick surfaces and purposefully devoid of seating to discourage lingering. They function as passive, frictionless conveyor belts. A journey through this environment is a perfectly optimized routing protocol, executed with quiet precision by state infrastructure. On a larger scale, the entire island operates as a unified, highly monitored computational network. Geography here is dynamic and constantly in motion. The system operates in real time. Automated sensors and toll networks anticipate congestion before it forms, instantly shifting traffic flows to bypass emerging red zones. This massive logistical undertaking creates an ecosystem that aggressively guards against friction. It refuses to let physical objects stop moving. Singapore has practically engineered out the concept of standing still. The city operates as a machine of managed momentum. In networking, latency is the ultimate measure of quality. It is the exact, measurable delay between an action and a system's response. But physical life is inherently chaotic. It generates waste and organic clutter. When a physical city achieves near-zero latency, what happens to that natural, messy human friction? The pristine illusion of seamlessness above ground requires a massive, completely unseen reality operating directly beneath the surface. Deep underground, colossal concrete tunnels stretch for miles. They act as the city's buffer, swallowing heavy logistics, utilities, and waste management out of sight. Singapore banishes these heavy, essential mechanisms into the earth, maintaining a surface optimized purely for human data throughput. This pristine simulation is subsidized by a dark, sprawling engine, churning quietly out of sight. This skyline represents a specific kind of urban achievement. It is ordered, visually flawless, and operates without a single visible glitch. Advanced simulation players recognize this as a two-layer reality. There is the surface experience provided to the user and the complex system running beneath it. The everyday environment citizens navigate is a rendered version. It's a polished interface designed specifically for seamless interaction. Understanding how a city of this scale maintains high-fidelity output requires looking past that interface. You have to find the hidden debug layers. Urban perfection is an engineered illusion. It serves to keep the heavy machinery of daily survival entirely out of sight. Singapore redirected its friction into the shadows. Dropping beneath the pavement reveals the raw reality of the debug layer. This hidden layer is a mess of pressure, wiring, and sludge. This is the city's true operating system, supporting the simplicity of the surface through immense complexity. You cannot destroy waste or unpredictability at this scale. You can only bury it efficiently. A massive subterranean network handles the physical chaos of 6 million people. Inside the deep tunnel sewerage system, the concrete door and yellow ventilation pipe dwarf the workers. It is a brutal environment. Thousands of tons of waste flow through here every day, isolated from the streets above by solid bedrock. This vascular network enables the illusion of a frictionless life on the surface. Subterranean containment creates the blank slate required to begin managing human behavior above. This raises the question of where physical routing ends and sociological management begins. The digital identity layer, anchored by systems like SingPass, acts as a second invisible set of tunnels. It routes human interaction with the same intent as the concrete tunnels beneath the city. Through LifeSG, the system tracks citizens across a tech tree of milestones, mapping births, housing, and pensions into one data stream. By predicting requirements, it nudges users towards state-optimized choices, actively guiding their life trajectory. The architecture of the city manages the identity and future of the person as much as it manages their physical waste. In a closed loop, the user cannot rewrite the fundamental rules of the system. Rebellion is a fantasy. Power in this environment comes from awareness. It is the ability to see how the logic moves, understanding what the system rewards and what it ignores. Survival requires strategic adaptation. You reposition your timing and energy to align with the systemic flow. Winning is synonymous with sustainability. It is the act of stabilizing and continuing within the loop. This leaves the audience to consider who decides which parts of the system are allowed to be seen. True autonomy is understanding the simulation well enough to survive it, leaving the heavy machinery behind for the clarity of the surface. We leave the subterranean pipes behind, breaking straight through to the surface. Down here, you have a grinding mechanical engine. Up here, you enter the user interface. Most observers look at the skyline and see a standard city. They see glass and steel organically growing into a wealthy hub over several decades. But every curve and sightline in the Marina Bay Array was calculated to command optical real estate, with towers aligned for absolute maximum visibility. Every angle of this cityscape has been optimized to capture and hold your attention. If you study network theory or play complex strategy games, the logic driving this construction becomes incredibly obvious. In those simulations, you build specific structures called wonders. You don't build them for housing. You build them to cast an invisible radius of influence. Standing within that radius generates continuous returns, harvesting status and feeding it directly back to the player. Singapore took that digital mechanic and poured it into concrete. The financial district projects a dense, coordinated environment where every element appears solved. The system multiplies this effect through temporary events. Routing a Formula One track through the downtown grid demonstrates a level of coordination that most cities can't manage for a single parade. And this visual signal acts just like gravity. It creates a sense of safety and competence that pulls in foreign investment naturally. By managing how the world sees it, the city creates a massive gravitational pull for global capital, shifting its position in the global economy through the power of perception. Maintaining an illusion of this massive scale requires an immense amount of physical energy. The pristine glass towers are insulated from the heavy, grinding machinery that actually pays for them. That work happens here. Miles of industrial coastline, stacked with steel shipping containers and automated cranes, processing a massive percentage of the planet's physical trade. You won't see this from the infinity pools downtown. The system compartmentalizes the noise and the pace of global logistics, far from the camera lenses. Because the execution on the surface is so clean, the observer often forgets about the millions of tons of cargo being moved in the background to sustain it. Keeping the labor invisible makes the final result look effortless. This increases the city's perceived authority. The system uses mechanical efficiency to subsidize its massive influence, keeping the labor entirely unseen. The macro layer is secure. The skyline broadcasts the signal, the capital flows in, and the collective behavior of the globe is managed. But an engine this precise eventually looks inward. It starts looking for smaller inefficiencies to solve. The scale drops. The physical infrastructure of steel and glass dissolves down into the pixels of a personal dashboard. The system already manages the physical layout of the world you walk through. Now we have to ask what happens when that system understands your personal identity. Where does the guidance of the city end and the control begin? Look past the physical concrete and steel of the city, and we find the real architecture. The daily experience of living here is a curated environment, a surface layer specifically designed to insulate the resident from the friction of modern life. Inside the digital infrastructure of platforms like LifeSG, the burden of discovery is removed. You don't search for benefits or check if you qualify. The system itself already holds your data. Background servers continuously track the variables of your life. They calculate exact eligibility, the timing, and the specific context for every interaction you have with the state. By eliminating the need to search, the entire relationship between citizen and state shifts. You are no longer actively petitioning a bureaucracy for services. You are a passive recipient of a stream of automated resources. Traditional bureaucracies require manual, multi-step approvals. Here, proximity triggers action. Applications become confirmations. Processes become clicks. Layers of paperwork, verification, and cross-referencing are processed algorithmically in the background. flattening complex administrative hurdles into single-tap resolutions. Whether you are scheduling a clinic appointment, paying taxes, or submitting a request for public housing, the friction disappears. This zero-grind architecture creates a baseline of total administrative ease. The mechanics recede so far into the background that the user forgets the vast machinery required to maintain this level of simplicity. To automate a society at this scale, the state has to quantify human life. Biological aging and societal milestones are mapped out and treated as a sequence of discrete character levels. The interface categorizes the population into 4 primary progression tiers: infant, student, adult, senior. Each time you cross the threshold into a new stage, the system updates. Advancing to the next tier reconfigures your available governmental subsystems and provides new resources. Within this infrastructure, getting older is handled as an automated trigger. It is a biological data point that tells the state when to deploy the next suite of design benefits. This translates bureaucratic categorization directly into mathematical logic. It functions as a progression tree. Your level defines your options. Reaching the adult tier activates specific pathways, such as grants for purchasing a home or securing family planning subsidies. If you fail to meet the precise systemic requirements, such as a specific income threshold or education level, the corresponding pathways remain inert and inaccessible. This hyper-structured progression maps out the exact routes for optimal societal advancement. By setting the parameters of the tree, the system guides citizens down highly specific, pre-approved paths. The system's autonomy begins to escalate. Over time, it moves from a passive respondent to an active participant in the planning. By analyzing the data generated by the progression tree, the infrastructure models citizen behavior before any action is taken. Before you apply, it prepares. The paperwork for your child's school registration or the adjustments to your pension plan are drafted by the system, waiting only for your confirmation. This creates a subtle inversion. A system operating fractions of a second ahead of human intention begins to lead the user, providing the answer before the individual has formulated the question. There is a deep psychological comfort in this. Existing within a perfectly tailored environment feels effortless. But a system that anticipates a human's next move requires total visibility. To maintain this frictionless state, the architecture must map every variable of your existence. Beyond the surface layer of easy clicks lies the continuous algorithmic processing required to map your trajectory and predict your needs. When a system anticipates every choice and guides every milestone, it does more than manage your schedule. It effectively narrows the horizon of who you are expected to be, engineering the path of your development. Most of us were handed a very specific map for life. Go to school, pick a discipline, get a job, and ride that straight line to retirement. But global economic shifts don't respect linear plans. New industries emerge, supply chains decouple, AI aggressively takes over baseline tasks. Suddenly, that single path fractures into an overwhelming network of required technical skills. To navigate this environment, the Singaporean government operates less like a traditional state and more like a live server administrator. It scans the global horizon for these exact economic shifts, identifies which new competencies are required, and pushes mandatory updates directly to the population. Keeping your footing in this architecture no longer means picking the right long-term career. It requires the capacity to continuously download, install, and execute relentless system patches. This means traditional educational infrastructure has to be retooled. Instead of operating as slow, isolated places of academic theory, spaces like the NTU Hive function as high-speed processing hubs, fabrication plants designed to forge specific human capital. Through national retraining programs like Skills Future, the state deploys these upgrades at scale. They allocate credits to citizens, subsidizing the exact training modules the economy is starved for. These are highly targeted deployments. If the National Master Plan dictates a pivot toward advanced manufacturing or fintech, the system incentivizes those exact nodes. State-funded learning in this model drops the pretense of personal enrichment. It is a calculated, continuous server update executed to ensure the nation maintains its competitive edge on a global map. When the global market shifts direction, the impact on everyday white-collar workers is immediate. Entire departments find their core competencies devalued in a matter of months. This triggers a forced adaptation process. Careers change, skills shift, paths reset. Workers must violently realign their professional identities with new parameters set by the state. Because in a system optimized for constant forward momentum, skill builds that remain outdated are effectively deprecated. They do not survive. Ripping up years of specialized experience to start over at the bottom of a new tech tree takes a profound psychological toll. You are constantly rewriting who you are to remain viable. We often romanticize adaptation as an inspiring tale of human resilience. Here, it is stripped of all limits. It is a strict, uncompromising baseline requirement just to stay in the game. We are moving away from a model where progression was a one-time event completed in your 20s and into an inescapable, continuous loop of play. This graph models relative workforce velocity. Because the entire population is continuously subsidized to level up, the baseline average surges. Standing perfectly still looks exactly like plummeting backward. The half-life of a learned technical skill has collapsed from a decade to roughly 3 years. Maintaining your current desk requires acquiring new certifications in data analytics or AI compliance, simply to avoid immediate redundancy. And every peer around you is simultaneously undergoing that exact same aggressive upgrading process. This relentless engine engineers unparalleled national resilience, but it purchases that capability with an undercurrent of inescapable, chronic individual anxiety. There is no denying the raw output. The system produces a highly capable, fiercely adaptable, and hardened population. But every hardware has a limit. Eventually, the speed of the data network and the required skill updates literally exceed human processing capacity. Here's a quiet, unresolved problem deep in the code. What happens when the system outpaces the player? In games, we understand this immediately. Easy, normal, hard. These settings dictate the user experience by granting different starting conditions, varying resources, and specific margins for error. Within a designed environment, difficulty is an acknowledged modifier. It accounts for why some players struggle while others effortlessly succeed. Real-world systems offer no such choice. There is no difficulty selection screen. Every individual receives an assigned starting point. The available resources and the acceptable margin for error are fixed without any player input. This data visualization compares 3 distinct starting baselines side by side. These function as preloaded stats, establishing the socioeconomic variables for each path. The deep friction felt by the individual results from these rigid, unchosen initial parameters. The path is largely dictated before the first step is even taken. Isolating the lowest profile reveals the stats to dictate societal survival: health, wealth, support systems, access. These variables are locked into the system at the start. This bounding box represents the hard cap on potential growth for this specific configuration. This static reality sits in direct opposition to the societal expectation of boundless, dynamic progress for everyone. This reveals a core design reality. The overarching societal engine is functioning exactly as programmed. A system operating without errors still yields divergent outcomes. The results change because the inputs were never equal. Systemic efficiency exists independently of fairness. The perfect system can run smoothly while still producing a predictable cycle of unequal suffering. Realizing the board is rigged often triggers a desire to seize control and rewrite the rules. However, the individual possesses zero design authority over the macro system. You do not own the map. Navigating this space successfully requires acknowledging that controlling the unchangeable was never the objective. True endurance begins with abandoning the illusion of control and shifting focus entirely to understanding the system's immovable nature. Survival starts by analyzing how the system moves. You identify what it rewards, and more importantly, what it ignores. Playing a hard-locked configuration requires a different style. one that prioritizes sustaining and stabilizing over the risks of aggressive progression. This blueprint shows the distinction. Both players navigate the same maze structure, but this configuration on the right is governed by significantly narrower pathways and tighter, riskier rules. Setting aside standard expectations of victory allows for the mental stabilization required to navigate a rigged environment. This shift changes your identity. You can discard the narrative that you are a broken player.
This is a different configuration, not a failed build.
It simply requires bespoke tactics that the standard manual doesn't cover. The external system remains indifferent. The rules of the map stay the same, but redefining your relationship to those parameters grants you internal control. You work within the geometry instead of fighting it. Agency is found in mastering the unique, assigned configuration you were given to play. Observe the flow of this environment. On the surface, the city bypasses the natural laws of resistance, moving with high-speed, mathematical precision. Optimization doesn't destroy friction, it displaces it. The system cools its core by expelling heat outward, pushing operational burden into surrounding nodes. In a high-efficiency city, those nodes are individuals. We absorb the pressure the machine cannot carry. The result is an illusion of a frictionless society, a system maintaining speed by offloading the weight of logistics onto the human layer. To see how this works, we have to look away from the movement of the city and focus on a single person standing still. To the city's sensors, they are a static data point, but internally, they are meeting a wave of systemic demands and environmental pressures. The human nervous system serves as the uncredited shock absorber for these high-speed loops of optimization. Because this absorption happens at the biological level, it remains invisible to the logistical dashboards that govern the macro system. The friction hasn't vanished, it simply crossed the boundary, moving from the concrete of the city into the biology of the person. The body runs its own simulation, a localized reality struggling to process an overwhelming feed of external requirements. This creates a timeline discrepancy. This top line, the external world, moves at the speed of light. The bottom line, human processing, stutters and lags, trying to keep pace. This processing delay builds into a bottleneck of unresolved biological strain. The macro system, however, only evaluates the individual based on their external adherence to the rules. If the person is in the right place at the right time, the system registers success, even as the internal biological reality nears a breaking point. The system's definition of alignment is limited to what its sensors can track. It reads the surface and assumes stability. This creates a systemic blind spot. The algorithm assumes health and capacity wherever it sees compliance. When individuals use their own resilience to bridge the gap, they accidentally confirm to the system that its extreme optimization is working perfectly. Maintaining this outward facade of alignment requires a constant internal expenditure of effort. Because this effort is never measured, the biological cost of the system's efficiency remains a missing metric in the city's data. The macro system is not designed to account for internal strain. It optimizes for the network, not the node. This means waiting for the system to adjust its pace or acknowledge the friction is a strategic error. Instead, the individual must take over the management of their own internal reality. Notice how this node seals its borders, creating its own closed-loop environment. Stabilization begins here. You prioritize the rhythm of your internal resources over the impossible speed of the external network. This reallocation of personal energy happens without direct conflict. The node continues to move through the network, but it is no longer governed by the network's noise. Recognizing this invisible layer is the first step toward independent navigation within the simulation. When the internal simulation stabilizes, the relationship between the player and the system changes. You are no longer just absorbing the friction. You are learning how to play. We started down in the biology, the internal networks. But when you zoom out, those organic pathways don't end. They merge. They feed directly into the macro architecture of the surrounding environment, which leaves us with a major problem. When you are suddenly dropped into a structure this massive, how do you navigate it? The instinct is to try to force your will on it, to look for the override switch. But you don't control the system. You don't design it. You don't rewrite its rules. The architecture is entirely fixed. So if you want to move through this space, you don't attempt to modify the environment. You have to change how you interface with it. Think back to the concept of friction. Mechanically, friction is what happens when you try to force your individual rules against the natural flow of an established environment. This flow state network model shows what that resistance looks like. When a user pushes against the current, the system outputs 3 immediate penalties: energy exhaustion, processing lag, and ultimately, system-level rejection. Notice what the network does next. It doesn't break. It simply routes its resources around the resistance, effectively isolating the user from the rest of the stream. But watch what happens the exact second that opposing force is dropped. The bottleneck clears. The flow equalizes. Because the environment is unyielding, the energy required to oppose it eventually exceeds the energy the system provides back. To remain a functional part of the network, you have to stop fighting the current. So if control is off the table, what is the objective? The answer is understanding, pure observational mastery. This schematic shows what we call system awareness. You have to identify exactly how the environment moves. You observe what actions the simulation mathematically rewards and what it simply ignores. To achieve that, you memorize its 3 fixed constraints: the speed of the data streams, the spatial limits of the grid, and the strict requirements for energy allocation. Observing and submitting to these rigid rules is not a loss of agency. Understanding the constraints is the exact prerequisite to mastering your own outcomes. Once you understand the system, you position yourself accordingly. First, you calibrate your timing. You step perfectly in sync with the shifting infrastructure, moving only when the paths open. Next, your energy. You allocate your momentum strictly toward pathways that provide forward motion, abandoning any static routes. And finally, your direction. You stop swimming against the tide and lock in to ride the dominant current. Every second is a decision. Every perfectly timed, energy-efficient decision, compounding on the last one, across thousands of micro-interactions. The result is a state of frictionless movement. This is strategic adaptation. The exact mathematical moment where your inputs perfectly match the system's unyielding constraints. Now take that frictionless movement and scale it up. When that harmony is sustained across the entire macro environment, the output is absolute optimization, scaling without crashing, balancing without lag, optimizing without stopping. Millions of individual actions flowing in uninterrupted rivers. At this scale, the system functions at its maximum theoretical capacity, where the distance between intention and execution disappears. When a system runs with this level of efficiency, you have to look closer at the structure itself. You look at these flawless patterns, and you have to ask, is this still a city? Or are you just executing your role inside a simulation? And if you are, where does the